Whenever I get asked to preach, I'm always like, I'm going to preach about something crazy then. I'm going to, how we should sacrifice goats and do evil things. And then I don't, but but I always threaten that I will. So I was reading the Old Testament, which is always a fun area of the Bible. And going through it, you see a lot of things that God doesn't like. He doesn't like, don't mix your clothing, which these are stretchy jeans, so there's a mixture of fabrics and cotton. He doesn't like you to just do so many things. The Catholic Church thought he didn't like your left hand. He doesn't like bacon, which I don't know what's going on in God's mind in that aspect. But you see a lot of things that he doesn't like, and some are cultural, some are spiritual, and I get some of them. And some are, as I said, some are terrible, like the bacon one. But I figured, since we want to be more like Christ, we should figure out the things he likes and the things he doesn't like, So since I get to preach, we'll start at the beginning. Let's start at Genesis. This is part of my 4-hour sermon. All right, so God's chilling with Jesus and the Holy Spirit in heaven. Let's get a mental picture. The Holy Ghost, they're all in heaven, and he sees the big nothing blob that is earth, the big nothingness of water, or whatever it is looking like. And he starts making stuff. He's like, okay, sun, light, boom. This is good. Then the next thing, he's like, okay, land. This is good. Animals, bam, good. Trees, bam, good. All this stuff is good. He's like, I'm getting good at this. And then he goes on to make man, and he's like, I'm really, really good at this. So a little while goes on, and Adam's hanging out in the Garden of Eden, and he's probably really, really bored because there's nothing else to do there but hang out with the animals. And no offense, not trying to be crude, but he's probably really, really horny because he's all alone, and all he has to do all day is see the animals having sex because God had told them to be fruitful and multiply, but he hadn't made him anybody yet. So he's probably really bored, and as I said, not trying to be crude, but so I'm just being honest. All he has to do all day is watch animals. So he's hanging out there, and a few verses later, God tells him you'll be fruitful and multiply and all that stuff. And if you read the story in the order it's written, it's kind of silly because he's like, I'm going to make man and female in their own image, be fruitful and multiply, but you're all alone, so you can't. But that's because Genesis is out of order. So God looks down on sad little bored Adam, and he's like, I got an idea. And the very, very first thing that God says he doesn't like after, this is good, this is good, this is good, he goes, I don't like the man's all alone. This isn't good. That's the very first thing where he's like, this isn't good. Yeah. That has to say something. If the very first thing God says, what's not good? Being alone. So I think it's Genesis 2:18. The Lord said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. Now, verses 19. Now the Lord God had formed out of the ground all the wild animals and all the birds in the sky. He brought them to the man to see what he would name them, and whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals, but for Adam, no suitable helper was found. And in my brain, just being me, I really picture this like, okay, aardvarks, up. Will this work for Adam? Nope. Okay, beavers, kangaroos, all the way to zebra. Is this a good helper? Nope. We got nothing here. And that's just in my brain picturing it. I doubt it went like that. But the way they word is, so God lined up all the animals to find a helper. I'm pretty sure God knew from the beginning none of these would work. I just love the way it's written in the Bible. No helpers were found to him. And the fact that he named them. I love how this was written. So, yeah, I don't know who thought of aardvark or there's some goofy animals. I love the literal reading of that. So God has this first thing he doesn't like, and it's a big one. It's that he's alone. And because God made man in his own image, he knew from the beginning that aloneness was bad, because God's never been alone. Right. He's never been alone. There's always been God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. There's always been unity. There's always been connection. So it's not like God, this was a surprise. He was like, he's all alone. No, I'm sure he knew from the beginning, but it plays out this way. So God has the first thing he doesn't like, and it's that we should never be alone. And I'm sure it was obviously a lot quicker than the story portrays. But show image 1. Put image 1 up on the screen. It's just kind of silly. It's dangerous to go alone.
Take me.
And I like that picture. So what are the dangers of being alone? to see that, let's go to the book of Judges, and we're going to visit the one guy in the Bible who probably wanted a woman more than Adam, and that would be Samson. Samson. I love the Old Testament stories. You know, you got Daniel and the lion's den, David and Goliath, all these cool He-Man, Hulk stories. And growing up, I thought they were the best. These are the fun stories, you know, all these cool things they did. Now reading them, they're some of the most terrible stories in reality. They're not the best stories. They're terrible. And when I was little, I knew all these stories by heart. I would tell the people, I'd line up the kids in the youth group when I was 5 years old, and I'd be like, have you ever heard the story of Daniel? Let me tell you from the beginning. No. And they'd be like, no. And I'm like, how are you 16 and you don't know this? But granted, my brain was not realizing a lot of these kids didn't grow up in church, and they didn't know these basic stories that I took for granted. So Samson, this angel shows up to Samson's parents, and they're all like, you're going to have a kid. He's going to be a Nazirite, and that means he can't cut his hair. He can't drink wine. He can't touch dead things, all these different rules. And his parents are like, wow, this is crazy. And the dad doesn't believe again, and the angel shows up again later. Kind of similar to the Jesus story almost in that aspect, where the angel keeps showing up. But, so Samson's born, he grows up, and the very first thing it says he does after he's being born, it basically says Samson is born to his parents, and it's their little story, and then it goes immediately to Samson. In Judges 14, it says, Samson, for Judges 14, I think it's verse 1, Samson went down to Timnah, where he saw one of the Philistine women, and then, he was like, hey, she's really hot. That's literally what he did. He saw a Philistine woman, he was like, woo, she's smoking. I want her. She's cute. I like this girl. So he heads home, and he tells his mom and dad, hey, I saw a woman. Go get her for me. I saw this girl. She was impressive. Obviously, that's what he's thinking. Now, his parents are like, hey, can't you find a woman of your own tribe? Can't you find an Israelite? Can't you find somebody, I don't know, your neighbor, anybody we know that we're in connection with? Anybody. Why do you need to go find one of our enemies? Why do you have to go find this from this uncircumcised Philistine? He says, go get her for me. She pleases me well. In other words, he was not thinking with his head. So he refuses, which shows a disconnection from his parents, for one, because he obviously doesn't really care about their opinion very much. He doesn't care at all about his relationship with his tribe and how this is a huge breach of contract, so to speak. You don't do this, especially back then. It wasn't cool. It was uncouth to go and marry these people because they were our enemies. It was just not cool to do to begin with. So he shows a disconnection from his own tribe to begin with, a lack of connection there. So his parents are like, hey, wait, why can't you do this? But Samson, he goes solo and refuses to listen to his parents. And after this, it kind of starts a trend, and you'll see it in his life. So Samson and his family are walking to go get this woman, and I don't know, you can go to the next verse. It might be there. Go to the next one. So Samson goes down to Timnah with his father and mother, and he came to the vineyards of Timnah. Now, depending on the wording, I think I like the interpretation I have here. It says, so Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother when he turned aside to the vineyards of Timnah. It first off shows his parents, they're going somewhere, and he goes off over here, which one of the very first things of his Nazirite vow is he's not allowed to drink wine. He can't do this. So what is his goal in going to hang out in the vineyards? There's not much other things he's going to do there. He's going to get drunk. That's Samson's goal. I'm going to go drink some wine in the vineyards, and I'm going off alone because his parents do not go with him. He separates from them and goes off solo. I'm going off over here. So Samson goes off into these vineyards, and a young lion comes roaring out at him. But it says the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon Samson, and he tore the lion apart barehanded as one tears a young goat. And it said without telling his mother and father what he had done. If I killed a lion, I'd be boasting about it, I'm just saying. But I don't think he wanted to tell them I was off by myself, probably where I shouldn't have been. So he doesn't tell anybody. And obviously I had that cool Samson picture of him ripping that lion in half. So Samson's a Nazarene, and one thing, he's not allowed to drink wine, but he has a strong disconnect from his family, so he does it anyways. Hence wanting to marry a prostitute. So he sneaks off to get wine, gets attacked by the lion, he kills the lion. So later, he's heading back to Timnah, and he has the bright idea of, I want to go look at the dead lion I killed. That's literally, he's like, I want to go look at it, which I get that being a guy, you're like, hey, I want to go check out this what it looks like. It's probably all fly covered. I get the grossness aspect of being a guy, like, this will look cool. So I understand that. He turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the carcass of the lion. Which, let's see. He came, so he has the ready to go look at the lion, and he scoops some of that honey out, and he goes and he brings it to his parents, and of course, he eats it, and he doesn't tell anybody. Again, he's not telling people what he's doing off by himself and going off and having these great ideas all alone. Which is genius, you're noticing, all these great ideas he has. Which, second one, his Nazirite vow, he's not supposed to touch any dead animal. Well, pretty sure he was scooping around in the guts of that lion to get some honey out. He's touching this dead animal. Second bright idea from Samson going solo is, violates his second part of his Nazirite vow. So, is anybody else seeing a pattern here? Samson goes off alone, makes a stupid decision, then he lies about it. And I feel this whole story would be a lot different and a lot more fun if Samson just had like a friend. Like, Samson has no friends in this story. If it was like, now Samson went down to Tinema with his buddy Jeff, and he saw a woman, and Jeff was like, dude, she's a hoe. Let's go this way. Or, so Samson went to the vineyards, and his buddy was like, Samson, you're underage. So they turned aside. Or Samson sees a lion with bees in it, and his buddy Jeff is like, dude, that's really gross. You don't eat things out of dead lions. But no. This entire story is not with Samson and anybody else, or Samson and any friends, or any other person. No, it's Samson going off by himself and making stupid decisions all alone. And it's kind of a different aspect of the Samson story I've never thought of before, is because, you have all of the basic ones of like, well, Samson disobeys this, and he had all this stuff, and he had cut his hair, and there's different aspects of the lust of women. You've heard that story of it, or the dangers of seeking after women and pleasure and all that, but never the dangers of being alone. Which is what Samson is. Samson is alone throughout this entire story in everything he does. And there's even more. I'll show you more about it. How Samson is always alone, and he's always disconnecting from the people around him and pulling away from people and not going by these people. He's pulling away from his parents, pulling away from his tribe, pulling away from the vows that God has given him, and even his connection with God. He's pulling away from it the whole time and doing things alone. Yeah. So, let's see. Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no guidance, a people fails. But in the abundance of counsels, there is safety. Proverbs 13:10, by insolence comes nothing but strife, but with those who take advice is wisdom. And if you notice with Samson, his entire story is strife and fighting and getting into fights and causing fights. And when you're younger, you think, oh, that's so cool, Samson's so buff, look at him kill those people. It's like, dude, Samson was kind of a jerk. He really was. And I'll go into that even more. He was not nice. Samson was a jerk to everyone around him, which is probably why he had no connections. So Samson finally gets married. Samson gets married to this woman that he wanted. And, all right, you can just keep it there. So Samson, let's see. Samson's father went down to see the woman. Samson had a feast prepared for him. He was following the practices of young men when they married their wives. When the people saw Samson, they gave him 30 men for his companions because he had none. I don't know how this one, some of them they were different. It happened when they saw him that they brought 30 companions to be with him. In the one verse they said, because he had none. Samson didn't even have groomsmen for his wedding. Literally. Samson had nobody to be in his wedding because he had no friends. None. So his enemies are like, Samson's all alone, and the customs say he has to have men with him, so I guess we have to supply the men as well. Like, okay. So the first thing Samson does when he gets these groomsmen is he acts like a complete jerk to them. He goes, I have this good idea. Let me pose a riddle to you. If you can solve it correctly and explain it to me within 7 days, I'll give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. And he goes and says, out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. Or, if you can't explain it to me. So he gives him this riddle, and it's about the lion he killed with the honey. And nobody in their right mind is going to get this riddle. It's just ridiculous, which just shows Samson. He's just silly. And he's wanting to be kind of a jerk because he doesn't like these people anyways. So Samson poses them this thing, and they can't figure it out, and the days are getting close, and they're getting all upset, so they go to his wife, and they're like, you better tell us or we're going to kill you. Like, you better figure it out. So then his wife is like, Samson, why do you hate me? Which happens later too. Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? Tell me the riddle. So he tells it to her, she tells it to them, and they come to him and tell him the riddle. They're like, well, what's stronger than a lion and sweeter than honey, obviously. And I like, you can go to the next one. You can go to the next one. Yeah, okay. I love that how he says, if you had not plowed my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle, which is a terrible analogy because he's calling his wife a heifer, which actually shows the comedic part of the Old Testament writing here, which is really funny. Just, in my opinion, it's funny. Maybe you guys don't think it's funny, but I think it's funny because he's like, if you hadn't plowed my heifer, which... So anyway, so Samson does a bunch of more jerk moves. He angers his father-in-law because of all this situation. Him and his father-in-law have a falling out because he kills a bunch of people to get the clothing for them. And then he lights their fields on fire. He catches, it says like a couple hundred foxes or whatever, ties their tails together and throws them in the fields, which is just crazy. Who has the time to do that? But who has the time to be like, okay, let's catch foxes, tie their tails together, light them on fire, and go? Samson has way too much time by himself. So Samson, the Philistines are mad because he lit their fields on fire. And the Philistines go and they tell the people of Israel, we're very mad. We're very upset. Like, this is your fault because Samson's one of you guys. And they're all like, whoa, don't pin that dude on us. Like, don't pin that guy on us. That guy's a jerk. Like, we don't have anything to do with him. So, it says, Judges 15:11, 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the crag of Elam and said to Samson, where he was hiding, because he kind of messed up, where he was hiding at, and they said, do you know that the Philistines are our rulers? Why then have you done this? He answered them, as they've done to me, I did it to them. Like, they treated me bad first. So he said to them, come, we're going to bind you hand and foot and deliver you to the Philistines. So... Now, everybody knows the story of Samson, obviously. It's a common Bible story, but it could have gone a little bit different. Imagine if he had made an effort to connect to these people, if he had been part of his community, if he had been a friend to these people, if he had been a brother to these people, like he should have been. He was supposed to be their judge, their leader. He should have been their leader. And instead, they're all like, well, we're going to tie you up and give you to them because we don't even like you ourselves. Yeah. Literally. His own people have decided to tie him up and get rid of him. Yeah. Because he is so disconnected and dysfunctional from everyone around him, making stupid decisions all by himself because he doesn't listen to his parents, he doesn't listen to counsel, and he wants to go solo on everything he does. So, Samson craved connection, but he had removed himself from people who generally cared about him. And he began to seek it elsewhere. And if you notice that, Samson craved connection, you look at the story of Delilah, it shows Samson saw a prostitute, and he went, and he falls in love with the prostitute. Now, I started looking online a little bit, and they say a third or more men who sleep with prostitutes do so for the feeling of intimacy and connection with another person. It's not just about sex for guys when they do that type of stuff. And that's what the scientific research and the analysts of the brain have said. It's not just about sex. It's a feeling of connection, of closeness, of intimacy. If you don't think Samson was craving connection but not knowing how to do it because he was so disconnected, he falls in love with a prostitute because she gives him a feeling of connection and closeness and intimacy and oneness and what he should have been getting from his family, his friends, and from God. He's craving everywhere else. Yeah. So play that first video, JJ. It's only like a minute long, but...
Marcus Licinius Crassus, commander of Italy, by command of his most merciful excellency, your lives are to be spared. Slaves you were, and slaves you remain, but the
That's a scene from the old movie Spartacus. It's an old 70s or 60s movie. I don't even know when it was made. But the story of Spartacus is he was a Thracian slave who became a Roman gladiator, fought in the arenas, and eventually rebelled and caused one of the largest slave uprisings in the Roman Empire. Thousands of men, all slaves, rebelled against their master. They actually even defeated a couple legions of the Roman army, and it was a big deal because the Roman army didn't get defeated. So the fact that they beat some, he used to be a Roman soldier, so he knew training, he knew how they thought, and he trained these slaves, and they rebelled, and eventually they get beaten. They get captured, all of his men, and basically they're like, we're going to crucify all of you. Unless you tell us who Spartacus is. He's the leader. We just want him. You're slaves. You're going to go back to being a slave. We really don't care about you that much. Give us your leader. And obviously you saw the scene. He goes to stand up to go, I don't want everyone to die for me. And I wasn't going to cry, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. And I'm not gonna. And it's emotional because it's connection. He had friends. He had connection with his community that he created. Not gonna cry, babies. Don't look at you guys. Look at Danae. Danae's cute and funny. Oh, look at her. She won't cry. So you see this connection he has with the people around him that he built, and they all die. They lined the road from Capua to Rome with thousands and thousands of crucified men and women. All of them. Wow. It's an insane story. True story. That's how Samson's story should have gone. When these 3,000 men came to him, they should have said, Samson, let's fight. Let's fight these men. Not going to cry. But it makes me sad because of his lack of connection. He was so disconnected from everyone and everything around him. They said, let's bind him hand and foot and let's throw him to the Philistines because he's not even one of us. And that's how they felt. Instead of the story of Samson being one of liberation and redemption, and God uses Samson to rally the Israelites, and they defeat their enemies, and they march on, and they're a free people. Instead, they're slaves for another 40 years. And it's terrible, because the story of Samson is one of such wasted potential. You know, Samson's story ends in shame. It's shameful. I know when you're little, you're like, woo, he pushed the pillars down, it's so cool. No, it's shameful. He died stupidly. He died in a stupid temple, surrounded by his enemies, and was buried. His father and them had to go probably pick his squished remains out of there and bury him. Shouldn't have ended that way. Shouldn't have been that way. But it's because he had lack of connection and lack of anything to do with the people around him, his friends, his family, everything. He said, I want to go off by myself. I want to go solo. I don't need to listen to them. I'm doing it alone. You can throw up that third image, JJ. This is it's just two big boats full of people. But what this is an image of, this is an image from Dunkirk, which they're currently making a movie about. But Dunkirk was a battle in World War II where Germany was pressing into France. In the very beginning, they were marching very quickly into France and taking a lot of ground, and British and French soldiers were there, and they ended up getting cut off, surrounded by German tank divisions, German artillery, completely surrounded, and they kept having to retreat and retreat and retreat, and they retreated all the way to the water where they were stuck. 400,000 men stuck, and they were surrounded, and they were being bombed, artillery shelled, airplanes dropping bombs on them, tanks, and they were utterly hosed, man. They were stuck there, and they had no way out. And the British and the French were pretty much, they had nothing at the moment. Their country had been invaded. The British were like, we are really, really screwed, honestly. And they knew that. They were like, what do we even do? Because they could not get any of their bigger boats into the shallow area of the water, so they couldn't even rescue these men. They had 400,000 men sitting on a beach that couldn't go anywhere. They were either going to become killed or POWs. And they knew it. And the Germans had stopped advancing and stopped pushing on them. They were still bombing them, but they had stopped pushing into them. So they're like, okay, we have days, hours, we have barely any time. We have to think of something. We have to have some idea. What are we going to do? So they came up with what they called Operation Dynamo, or the Miracle of Dunkirk, as it's also called, where they sent out a rallying call to the community, everybody around, every single person in the surrounding area. They said, do you have a boat? Do you have a fishing boat? Do you have a yacht? Do you have a paddle boat? Do you have a giant rubber ducky ring? What do you have? What do you have? We need your help. So they sent a call out to the entire community of everyone saying, we have 400,000 men sitting on a beach who are going to die or become captured. And they sent out this call, and the entire community of the whole surrounding area rallied behind it. And you had little men in their tugboats going out there, being bombed still, people, and the whole community of the surrounding city area everywhere got in their little boats, picked up men, and ferried them back to the bigger ships. Picked up men, ferried them back to the bigger ships. And they did this for days. And they rescued about 370,000 of these men. Men died defending it, and the other ones didn't get out in time. But we don't have the largest church in Traverse City, and I know that. I'm not stupid. I see the huge churches. But this is what community and the strength of a unified community can do. 400,000 men rescued on little boats.
I like that.
It's pretty crazy, too, because there's more photos. There's not a ton of them because obviously it took place in 1937 or 36 or whatever. So there's not a ton of photos of it. But it's a cool story. And they're making a movie of it right now. You're going to see it in theater within the next year. It's really awesome because it just shows the power of a unified community of how mom and pop in their fishing boat. You might be thinking, what am I going to do? And if every single person had thought that and stayed home, well, guess what? 400,000 people would have died or been captured, and that changes everything. That changes history as you know it because people aren't born. People who should have been alive today aren't alive. You don't know.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know? I strongly believe that if we connect with each other and that if nobody feels alone, you can do some pretty big things, even in small numbers. Yeah. If we can build a sense of community, we can do big things. What I've found with people who tend to disconnect and go solo is it's not an overnight process. I doubt Samson woke up one day and disconnected from everybody and stopped listening to his parents. It didn't happen that way. I guarantee it. People don't wake up one morning. It normally stems from some type of hurt in their life that they can't figure out how to let go of. Some type of pain or something that happened to them. It doesn't just overnight, people don't just pull away from you. It normally happens somewhere slow. Play the second video, JJ.
Has everyone connected?
Merry Christmas, Markham.
Why do you have a dog on your head?
Probably because he's embarrassed by that idioter's gift.
Sorry. Please take the bag off. Yes, you take it off. Put the book down. And your foot.
Look at that hat, Joe.
The Fury.
You can stop it. No, obviously I don't think people are Grinches. Nobody's green. But are there areas of your heart where you behave like the Grinch? He liked Christmas, and then he got hurt. He got wounded in an area of his heart. And literally, the Grinch goes solo. He climbs a mountain, and he lives in a cave by himself because an area of his heart was hurt. Where are the areas of your heart that you've been hurt? Are there areas, what are the areas you need to work with? Is it, you believed God for something and it didn't happen. So you stopped giving, or you used to work in the church dedicatedly, and nobody ever seems to notice. Nobody noticed me, and you got offended and you got hurt. So you just stopped. What areas in your heart have you cut off and gone solo in your heart? And, it's when you needed something that just got unanswered. In fact, I doubt there's a single person here that doesn't have an area of their heart that they haven't gone solo in. Because it's not something that you notice. Most of the time, it's not a Grinch-type situation where you go hide on a mountaintop. But everybody gets wounded. Everybody gets hurt. And they pull back just a little bit in this area. Like, this part of my heart's cool. This area, don't touch it. This area, it's solo. Leave me alone. This is my solo spot.
That's right. Yeah.
And the thing about going solo is, it normally doesn't take long before you start to do stupid things, just like Samson. You start to make stupid decisions because you don't listen to people around you, and you don't take counsel, and you don't listen to the people that actually love you because you've been hurt before. So I can't get hurt if it's just me doing this. If I don't listen, you can't hurt me anymore. Because obviously I said, if you have no counsel, and you cut off people in areas of your heart, you cut God out of areas of your heart too. Because God can hurt you as well. You can feel like God hurt me in this area, so I'm going to cut him off as well. It's not just people. It's not just people you can go solo with. You can go solo with God, where I believed for a family member to get healing, and God never did it. So I'm going to stop in that area because it didn't happen. So I'm going solo in this area because you don't provide here. You don't hear my prayers here. If you think you can go your whole life without the input and the help from other people, I'm going to tell you right now, you're stupid. You're stupid. If you don't think there's people smarter than you, wiser, that have the good interests in store for you and they want the best for you, you're stupid. I know there are family members and there are people that love every single person has somebody that they love. I believe it's Robin Williams who said, when he committed suicide this last year, he said, the saddest thing in life isn't being all alone, it's being surrounded by people and feeling all alone.
Right. Yeah.
He was somebody that felt all alone, and then it took him dying for people to come out of the woodwork going, oh, I loved him so much. This breaks my heart. His friends, his family, oh, I loved him so much. If only I would have known. He had gone solo, I guarantee it, in areas of his heart where he just hid and didn't let anybody see it. I don't need anybody's help here. I'm all alone. And the sad thing is, it caused him to kill himself. And it's terribly sad because of being alone and disconnecting. There's a reason the president has a chief of staff and they have advisors. It's because smart people know there's wisdom in being surrounded by people and advice. And there's wisdom in having people around you. And Samson obviously did not know that. Samson didn't realize that there was wisdom in counsel, as I said in Proverbs. I think of myself as a generally smart person, but I know that I'm not the smartest person in the room. I know that I'm smarter, though, if my wife is with me, or if my dad is with me, or if JJ's with me. I know I'm smarter when I listen to the people around me. When I first had to do taxes, I had no clue how to do it. So you know what I did? I said, Darren, how do you do your taxes? Can you come and show me how to do it? Now, I could have did it myself and gotten a nice letter from the IRS saying, we would like to audit you. Yeah. And that could have happened because, hey, I didn't trust Darren or trust people or open my heart, or, well, Darren's tricked me before in the past. I don't want to listen to him. He might be trying to mess me up. Those are the thoughts people have when they're going solo is, well, I've been hurt before. They might try to get me again. Right. So play that third video.
And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. Empty inside. And I'm leaky. The slave, the perfect, they'll be destroyed. And I care. What is the deal? This can't happen. It shouldn't, it couldn't, it mustn't, it wouldn't. Not now, not then, not ever again. This toy, right? What are you after?
I can't see it. No one should be alone on Christmas.
All right, that's good. I forgot how long that clip was. I know it's a silly representation, and it's the Grinch. It's Jim Carrey. It's ridiculous. But it's kind of funny to see once his heart grows, and he got healing in this area of his heart, opened himself back up to connection with people. Well, guess what? He discovered he had strength he didn't even know he had. Once he reestablished connection with people and those around him and got healing in this area of his heart that he had been solo and cut off from everyone else, his heart not only grew 3 sizes, but he was way stronger. Which, I know it's kind of goofy, but it's a good, in my brain, it's a good representation of what it looks like and what God really wants for you in your heart, in areas of where you've cut him off. He wants you to open him up so he can be like, you're so much stronger when you haven't gone solo in your heart in this area. You're so much more when you haven't cut people off and when you haven't pulled away. And I don't know what people are going through and what people's hearts look like, everybody's. But I know God, he desires connection because it was his very first thing that he said. I don't want anybody to be alone. God doesn't want people to be alone ever. I have one more video I'm going to show you. And go ahead and play the last one. I love this video.
Indeed. Appreciation. Johnson places the ball on the spot, getting ready. That man literally has a cannon for legs. Here he goes, winding up for the shot, and oh! The cannon has fired and hit Sterling directly to the face. We clocked that a stunning 116 kilometers per hour. Now that's a lot of miles per hour. Little chance that man's nose is not broken right now. Oh, indeed. Now Sterling getting checked out for that one. Spectacular save, though, but sadly, he's not out of the woods yet. On his feet now, a bit shaken, but not Sir. This crowd absolutely loves this man. And Sterling's teammates welcome him back a hero. Now, he yells up again for the second attempt, looking to make it 2-0. He approaches the ball with some determination. Here he goes. Oh! It's high and wide, way off target. Yes, apparently he thought he was kicking a field goal. What kind of football, I'd say. Good show. Back now to Scott Sterling. Looks a bit worse for wear, but ready for round 2. And Shaw takes a moment. Here he goes with the approach. Oh! Fantastic guard. The ball flies straight through his hands. Once again strikes him straight in the stone. And he seems to get on the instant replay. Detail captured in HD perfection. Clocked at 129 kilometers per hour. Sterling does not look well. 2 wonderful saves and 2 concussions. The replacement of his voice is double. Yes, as the trainer takes him off the field like a mustached lion dragging a gazelle through the steering. Yale now with the third PK. Richards is in the goal, bouncing like an infant girl. As he goes in, here it comes. Oh! Very anticlimactic. Let's see who they got to replace Scott. Scott Sterling is back! Oh my! And he's taking a very odd tactic now. Seems to be curling up to protect his face. Not exactly a recommended technique, but here it's wait, no, Lambert needs to tie his shoe. And that's why you do a double knot, kids. Sterling still waiting for the kick to happen. Probably wondering when. Absolutely incredible. Though I must say, Sterling does not look well at all. Well, you know football players like to have a bit of drama, don't they? They're gonna take him out? No, wait! They've got him a chair! Moves like a manager! Bang sets up for the 4th attempt! This, frankly, is a gimmick. He literally just has to kick it anywhere except where Sterling is sitting. There is no possible way that North Carolina can mess up this shot. No. He has looked into the eye and said, take your best shot, to which Seth replies by punching him in the face over and over again. If Yale makes this final shot, it's all over. But no! Oh, he misses, which means we're going to Scott Sterling! His face is like a brick wall.
Okay. That is one of my favorite videos on the internet, Studio C. They're hilarious. And the cool thing is they're all Christians, too. All their stuff is really clean, and they're awesome. But what's funny about that video is that's what it looks like when you win, but you still lose. It's a good representation of it's what it looks like when you're going solo, so to speak, even when you're on a team, when you feel like you're a one-man team. Even when you win, you're still losing. You know how many people have everything in life yet are miserable? He won the championship. I guarantee he's miserable still. It was interesting. I was reading stuff from Business Insider, and they were talking about when the internet boom happened and tons of people became millionaires overnight. There was a huge flux of people just becoming multimillionaires instantly, and then they started doing recorded data on it and the amount of influx of these millionaires who suffered from depression and suicidal thoughts and tendencies because they realized they felt like they had everything and they were still all alone and they were miserable because they were all alone still. Even though they had everything in life that they could possibly want, they were miserable, just like the video. He won the championship. I guarantee he's miserable. And that's why, his face is a brick wall of misery and pain. I'm pretty sure acquiring $1 billion would solve all your problems. That's what most people think. Like, if I had just money, if I had this, if I had that, I would have everything. Do you know how many people win the lotto and are miserable still? It doesn't solve anything. Money doesn't solve things. Stuff doesn't solve things. Championships don't solve things. Connection, unity, not being solo solves things. Last time I preached, I played the video of George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life. That's what solves things. It's community and unity and having your heart open to people and feeling like you can connect to people and having brothers and sisters, even that aren't your blood. That's what solves things. You know, it's amazing how many rich, famous people kill themselves because they don't have, as I said with Robin Williams, they don't have anything. They've gone solo. Don't cut people out of your heart. I guess if somebody could come up and play the piano for a second, that'd be cool. I guess if you get anything out of this message, it's that I implore you, don't cut people out of your heart. Don't cut God out of your heart. It's a choice. It's a choice to forgive. It's a choice to stay connected to people. It's all a choice. It's a choice you make to stay in unity, to stay in community, to not go solo. JJ, I would say put that first image back up if somebody could. He's gone, it doesn't matter. But if there's any areas of your heart, I implore you to look at it. Look at yourself. Take a deep look and go, where have I turned to a Grinch? Where have I been like Samson and I've made my own choices because I want to do it my way? I want to make my own decisions. I don't want to be part of a group. I don't want to be hurt like the Grinch. I don't want to be hurt by people. What are the areas that you need to ask God to show you that you've gone solo in, that you've gone off all alone? And I just pray that everyone would take time to just connect to the people around them and your family, because that's the true treasures. Your community, your brothers, your sisters, your friends. Money doesn't matter. Stuff doesn't matter. What matters is having an open heart and having open relationships with people. Because in the end, stuff fades, stuff goes away. On my deathbed, I'm not going to take my bank account. I want my wife. Because that's what matters. So this week, just ask God to show you where you've cut off. Where you've told him, I don't need you. Where you've told people, I don't need you. Make an effort to get involved. And even like I got to go to this last Wednesday night Connect group, fellowship group at Darren's, and that was a lot of fun. Because as we were making an effort to just get to know each other. JJ, throw that first image back up. We were making just an effort, and I implore you, it's dangerous to go alone. So take your heart. I pray that everybody here has an amazing week and an amazing time with their family and their friends and the people they love. And if you get anything, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to go alone. I love all you guys, and I pray that you have an amazing week, and you have fun, and you connect with people, and you connect with somebody new, and you make an effort to get involved with your community, get involved with your church, fix the areas that you've cut off, so you don't make stupid decisions like Samson, so you don't make dumb choices, because God's first thing God does not want is you to be alone. This is the very first thing he ever said he didn't like, was I don't like people alone, and that has to mean something. If it's the first thing he didn't want. So, I love all you guys. I hope you have a great week.